And now let's do the Greek of Acts 19:23 through 31. So Paul, as I've said, is on his way to Jerusalem by way of Macedonia and Corinth. But first, there's a bit of a ruckus at Ephesus. And so let's begin with verse 23 and look at the Greek. And I have some pictures for you and a figurine. So I talked about it in the podcast. So see, here are the podcast if you want a little bit more on the cultural and historical kind of situation. So, and it came to pass. Now, this is a form you will see it all over the New Testament. You may as well just stop right now, drop what you're doing, and learn this form. What is it? Okay, it is aorist because of the gen. If it was, it's genomai, so it's deponent. If it was present or imperfect, it would be gin, or gamma iota nu. But since it's gamma epsilon nu, it's, in this case, aorist. There's the augment. So it is aorist. This is a middle ending, amen, uita, middle or passive. But in the aorist, we have a theta eta for the aorist passive. So it's a middle ending, but it's deponent, genomai. So it's aorist, middle deponent, indicative because the connecting vowel is short, third person singular from genomai. So again, just memorize that. Agenata means it became, it came to be, it came to pass, and it is aorist, middle deponent, indicative, third singular from genomai. So what came about is a stir, a controversy, conflict, a controversy, not a little understatement there. Litotes is the name for understatement. So a controversy, not a little, came to be, according to that time, demonstrative pronoun here, at about that time, concerning the way. And I talk about the way just very briefly in the podcast. For, the procrastinator, just like a certain Demetrius by name, a silversmith, making shrines, silver shrines of Artemis. Now, this is a really interesting word here because the word naos normally means temple. And I know Demetrius isn't making temples for people. Yeah, this is a 10 by 10. You know, you want to take it home? You know, he's making little silver shrines in which there's a figurine. Now, when I was in Ephesus, I've been in Ephesus twice now. It's not a lot, but here is a little figurine that you can buy there. I don't worship this, make it very clear. It's a little obscene, too. You can see how many breasts Artemis has, which is, I think, a pretty good indication that Artemis was a fertility goddess there at Ephesus, and probably for a very long time, for hundreds of years. So beyond our knowledge of what, of the distant past, there had been a shrine to a fertility goddess there at Ephesus for a long, long time. And of course, a very large temple to her. Here is this has been reconstructed, of course. This hasn't been sitting there for 2,000 years. They've put it back together. There are, of course, places where they've reconstructed temples, like Laodicea is in the middle of a massive reconstruction. At least last time I was there in 2000, was it 12? Can't remember exactly when it was, but it was in a massive reconstruction. So here's a pillar, little bird on top. Of the remains of the Temple of Artemis, but it must have been quite spectacular. Look, if it's in water these days. But so Demetrius is a silversmith making silver shrines of Artemis. He was making with the artisans not a little money, a little business. He was bringing to the artisans not a little business. So this is par echo. The imperfect of echo is akon. So this is the imperfect of par echo. Imperfect, and the toe is middle again, middle or passive. It might be deponent, in which case it would be par ekomai. So he was bringing, indicative, because that's a short connecting vowel, to the artisans, not a little business, verse 26, whom, these artisans, having gathered together. So this is a aorist because of the sigma alpha. It's a participle, nominative masculine singular, from sun athroidzo, I think it is. So having gathered together, so he gathered together his fellow kind of artisans and the workers concerning such things, he said, aping and aorist, right? And now we have a quote, direct discourse. Men, you know that from this work, the wealth to us is. So we make a lot of money on these shrines. Verse 26, and you see and you hear that not only at Ephesus, and I think this is a genitive of place, not a real common genitive, but that's what it is here, I think, that not only at Ephesus, but pretty much at all Asia. So in all Asia, Paul has had a massive influence bringing the Christian gospel to this whole region. This Paul, having persuaded, he is turning a large crowd, saying, so this is again, sigma alpha, it's aorist. It's an aorist active participle, nominative masculine singular from patho. Having persuaded, all these people, he is turning, there's sen. What is sen? Aorist active indicative third singular, from a methistemi. It's the aorist of methistemi, active indicative third singular. Saying that there are no gods, the ones coming to be through hands. This is, these things are not gods. You can't make gods with your hands. What are you thinking? Paul's basically, he's being a good Jew, right? He's teaching them that thou shalt not make unto me any graven images, and certainly you will have no other gods before me. So you don't do that. And you can't make a god with wood. I mean, really? I'm going to make a god today. No, it doesn't work that way. Verse 27, and not only this, he endangers the lot to us to come into disrepute. So he's basically bringing us and our business into disrepute. So he's not only is he teaching people that there are no gods that you make with your hands, but he is endangering to bring. So elf is the aorist of erchomai. It's an infinitive, aorist active infinitive from erchomai. He is endangering the lot to us to bring it into disrepute. Okay? But also the temple of the great goddess Artemis to be reckoned as nothing. Now he's getting it. Now you're getting serious here. You're messing with Artemis. This is a aorist passive because of the theta eta infinitive, aorist passive infinitive from logizomai, so it's deponent. And to be about to also to dispose of her majesty, which all Asia and the inhabited world reverence. So this is Artemis we're talking about here. He's messing with our Artemis. So this is sebeomai, which is present present deponent because it has a tie, mai sai tai ending, indicative third singular, sebeomai, which all in a relative clause with a relative pronoun there. Verse 28, and having heard and having become full of wrath, this is sigma alpha, so it's aorist. My aunt is an active participle, aorist active participle, non-masculine plural. This is again ginomai, it's aorist because it's gen, aorist, middle deponent, participle, nominative masculine plural. They were crying out saying, so this is the imperfect of kradzo, present stem with an augment, third plural, present imperfect active indicative. Quote, great the Artemis of the Ephesians. Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. And this is what the mob is going to start yelling. And the city was full of confusion. And so what we have here is a aorist passive, theta eta, right? Theta eta from pimplemi. There are a couple of play words that mean full, that kind of mean the same thing. Playrao. This doesn't look like playrao. This looks like something like pimplemi. So it's aorist passive because of the theta eta. So it's aorist passive indicative third singular. The city was filled. of confusion, and they rushed. Sigma Alpha, aorist. Nu is third person plural, so it's aorist. Active indicative, third plural from hormeo, I think, or hormao, perhaps. And they were rushing together. There's homothumadon again, a word that appears enough in Acts to memorize. They were rushing together into the theater, having seized, so sigma alpha is aorist, active participle because the aorist active participle, nominative masculine plural because of the S. So having seized Gaius and Aristarchus of Macedonia, they took Paul's co-companions of Paul, verse 30. And Paul, wanting to go into the space, the crowd. This is a genitive absolute, right? Noun in the genitive, participle in the genitive. It's a present boulomai, so it's deponent, I think. To go into, elf is aorist active infinitive from eis erchomai. They were not permitting him. That is, the disciples were not permitting him. This is a kind of a peculiar word that means to allow or to permit. Okay, verse 31. And certain also of the Asiarchs, these are the people that kind of run the city, being friends to him, present participle of ami, having sent to him, psi is the key to hidden sigma alpha is aorist, aorist active participle, S, nominative masculine plural. Having sent to him, they were admonishing him not to give himself into the theater. This is the aorist infinitive of didomi. This is a reflexive pronoun, and this is the imperfect of parakaleo with an augment, but the letters of the present stem. So it's imperfect, active, indicative, third plural. Okay, so we'll hear the rest of the story, Lord willing, tomorrow, but I want to end with a picture of the theater. There is the picture of the theater. Of course, it's been reconstructed. You know, it hasn't been like this for 2,000 years, but it has been uncovered for some time. I mentioned in an earlier video that I think Ephesus is the most magnificently uncovered village. So where this is situated in the east side of these ruins. If you go out this way, it goes to what used to be where the Aegean Sea came in. Of course, it's dried out, and so you actually have to go quite a ways now this way to get to water. But at the time, the water was just right down the dock here. If you go down this way, you come to the Agora, at least the eastern Agora, which could have been where Paul was, although Paul may have been in between these two hills. You go uphill, and there's another Agora up there, a Roman Agora, maybe more likely that Paul would have set up shop up there somewhere, I think, and probably the authorities would have been up there. But down here is the Agora, and this is on the edge of the ruins. By the way, if you go this way, in fact, this might actually be some of the ruins of a early church. I think it's a Church of St. John, if I remember correctly. Or no, it's of the Virgin Mary, isn't it? It's a Church of the Virgin Mary. Okay, well, because there is a tradition that the Virgin Mary ended her life at Ephesus. I'm not sure about it myself, but it is a tradition. So this has been Acts 19, and we did today verses, what did we do? Verses 23 to 31, I believe. So tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll finish up Acts 19.